Hi, my name is Todd Perry. I'm from the Leeds School of Business Hybrid MBA class of 2026, and I'm here today to give you a presentation on executive presence. Throughout my 28-year Army career, one of the remarkable things I've found is that you can learn just as much from the people you do not want to emulate as the people you do want to emulate. And whether it's from leadership principles, tactics, aviation training in my case, or aviation expertise, you can take just as much from the people that you want to learn from and discard the stuff from the people you don't want to emulate. And I'll break this down. Um, I will I'll brief it through sort of the lens of two people that I worked with, one that I wanted to emulate and one that I do not. I will refer to them as the one I do not want to emulate is the colonel, and the one I do want to emulate is the general, both military ranks at the time that I served with them, for both of these people. And I will further break this down in the context of June Madella's seven traits of executive presence, which I'll explain to you as we go on, and Amy Cuddy's research from her book Presence, in which she talks about the two core judgments that people make when they first meet you. In the spirit of getting the bad news out first, we'll start talking about the colonel, the guy that I don't want to emulate, in the frame of executive presence. As Amy Cuddy explains, the two core judgments that people make when they first meet you are warmth and competence. And warmth has a much higher percentage of people who that's the first judgment they make than competence. And as I say, warmth comes before competence. And one of the ideas is that throughout evolutionary survival, we would establish warmth or trust before cooperation in order to go ahead. And there were two things that struck me for my first impression of the colonel. The first was his lack of warmth. The second was his lack of composure. And I'll sort of go through each. So the lack of warmth was something that um, that you can just tell from the beginning, that he was sort of all out for himself. Wasn't quite, I don't think, a toxic leader, but he was someone that definitely lacked that connection, which is one of the traits that I'll touch upon, that warmth. And that's something that struck me right away. And then what that ended up being for the audience, which was, the soldiers and the different military service members that we worked around, some of them that he led, was a lack of trust. Second was his lack of composure. I noticed that he would sort of flail his arms in the air and writhe around. And we jokingly refer to him as Gumby sometimes because of just the lack of composure that he had. And this was something that this is part of June Madala's seven traits of executive presence, which he breaks it down as charisma, clarity, confidence, composure, connection, um, connectedness, or sorry, concisiveness, and credibility. And so he definitely lacked. First of all, as per the Amy Cuddy, he lacked warmth. But most importantly, or one of the other important things was that he lacked composure. And it is said that a warm, trustworthy person elicits admiration. He definitely did not elicit admiration, or trust for that matter. As a young soldier, I had a stereotype that I've since discarded, which was it seemed like the people that I worked with, the leaders that I had, and managers in our case, I guess, either fit into one of two bins. Either they were exceptional at their job, great aviators, great military tacticians, excellent physical fitness, but they were either toxic or just hard to be around, or all in it for themselves, or they were really, really nice people, great to be around. They had the connection, they had the warmth, but they didn't have the competence, or they just weren't that good at their jobs. And of course, the colonel fit into the first bin, whereas he had clarity, he had concisiveness, he had some credibility, but he lacked the charisma, the composure, the confidence, and most importantly, the connection. And I think that, military service, as I'm sure in most every single line of work, there's those people that you almost know right away that are all about themselves. In our line of work, it's whatever you need to do to get that next promotion. And the colonel, he was he was one of those guys that, like I said, sort of fit in that segment, but he lacked connection. Um, and I sort of think of this funny story where I was getting a brief years ago as far as toxic leaders are concerned, from a general officer, and I was in the second or third row of an auditorium, and I wasn't really paying attention. And the general said, "What is a toxic leader? Define it." Captain Perry. And of course, I said, "Sir, it's selfish." He said, "That's exactly right." And then I sort of laughed because I, wasn't fully paying attention. But that's what struck out to me, for this manager in this case, or this leader, was his lack of warmth, his lack of connection. Um, Showed, just that, the toxicity affected his executive presence, and therefore he virtually had none, no matter how competent he was. And on to the general, the one who I really respect and admire. I believe he displayed all the seven C's of June Madala's executive presence. He was one of the ones that, as I mentioned, I've since discarded this stereotype, but he's one of the ones that had both. As Amy Cuddy would explain, he had warmth and competence, or he was just a really good guy, really cared about soldiers, Marines, everyone we worked with. But he was also extremely competent. Um, that combination was essential. We respected him, we admired him, we listened when he spoke, and most importantly, well, as I sort of mentioned, we trusted him, and he had that connection. Um, Many times we would go through planning sessions, sometimes at the various events around the globe at the highest levels of government, very intense planning sessions. And when we brief him, he would sort of warmly, like, and with tact and not just courtesy, but with respect for others. He would tell us what he said, and then what we had proposed, and then he would sort of add upon it just these amazing ways. Like, he was a superb strategist, things that we hadn't even thought of. But we would go on, and we would be sort of proud to work with him, and it was just something that his executive presence, as I studied this for this class, that came out to me that he really was able to sort of hit all those seven characteristics. One of the things we'd often laugh, we would call him the warrior philosopher, just because of his grasp of just, not just different concepts, but strategy, different things around the globe, was amazing. And his clarity, his cool, calm, collected nature, his confidence were astounding. And those are parts of his executive presence that, unlike the colonel, they were able to elicit the admiration and respect that that we came to, it really came to make the organization much stronger, because it built us up, for one, but it just, our product was great at the end of the day too. And I believe the connection is one of the most important characteristics. There was something that I saw with the general time and time again, whereas he would show the same level of warmth, connectedness, respect to the most junior of soldiers, or different service members, different international partners around the globe, up to the highest ranking officers in the Pentagon. We call the top brass. He would show that same level. There was no sort of, you didn't get a different general for different areas. So that was an important part of his executive presence. He had the same thing. We knew it was genuine. We knew it was, of course he had integrity, but just the presence that he had was important. And as I said, he hit upon all the seven C's. And throughout this class, this is something that has helped me immensely. I think it could help you too, if you sort of think about it this way. Like, I think we all have different areas we can work on. You can pick one of the seven C's, or multiple ones. I know for me, sometimes I have a lack of confidence when it comes to different projects, different tasks, presentations like this, especially being in this new realm of business. But I think that it's really important that it helps to, sometimes it just helps you to have a framework. I believe the framework of June Madala's seven C's, and also, Amy Cuddy's, just that very beginning of her core judgments, the warmth and the competence. That's something that I've seen play out well before I studied her work. And it's a good framework with which to build. And as I said, hopefully I can, people can learn from you. And hopefully you'll be the role model that people will want to emulate. Um, I appreciate your time today. Thank you for sticking in to the end, and go Buffs.